even growing up, being dyslexic, for the first almost all the way through high school, feeling like, kind of stupid, like, I can't grasp things as quickly, I can't read as quick or write as quick, and everything just kind of was harder for me to grasp when it came to, mostly reading and writing. So that was a big insecurity that I had to work through.
It's actually coming from a place of personal experience, because personally, I have in the past felt like, I had to do a lot more to present myself as a person of worth and a person that was valuable in any community that I went into. And I felt like that then pushed me to always want to have a title attached to me in order to feel like I matter, to feel like I am valuable in whatever context. So I think underlying that was an insecurity that I felt like I wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So that in every room that I walked into, I felt like I had to add a bunch of complementary elements to my personhood or to myself in order for me to then get to that level of where I feel like people would view me as someone of importance or someone that actually had something to offer.
Yeah. What we're trying to create here is open space. We're trying to create a place where, hey, we can talk honestly and openly about, hey, what's going on in our lives? What are some of the things we're dealing with? What does it mean to live a Christian life?
And let people into this space to find healing, to find restoration, to find redemption. We can explore those things with the Word of God. First of all, tell us how you have been. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I've been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Feeling pretty good. It's been pretty good last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been pretty good last couple of weeks. So this not been one of your crazy work weeks, so must be rested.
Yeah, there's so for those who don't know, there have been big storms that came through Texas.
Yeah, and we survived. We came out
survived.
strong.
Yeah, maybe some hail damage, but we survived. So.
We didn't even lose any power in my apartment. I was kind of worried about that. I got up and actually slept through the whole storm, by the way. And I got up, got ready, was really just ready to go to work. I didn't even check the weather because normally I don't.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I saw this text from work because they were like, oh, we are monitoring severe weather conditions, but the office is going to be open, business as usual, whatever. So I was like, oh, cool. Anyway, as I was getting ready to actually get out of the door, they sent out like a new weather alert came in. I was like, you shouldn't be on the road. Like, do not drive. Like, don't get on the road. I was like, this is probably another one of those American overreactions over very stupid things. Yeah. By the way, I felt the same way about the eclipse because I was like, Americans are like always extra about very little things. Like, they see like a deer and they're like, oh my gosh, let's stop! It's a deer. I'm like, it's just a deer.
Even the amount of people who just traveled to Texas just to see the eclipse.
Yeah, and people were hyping it up. So I was like, this is gonna be one of those things that Americans are overreacting about, and it's not gonna be a big deal. Honestly, I was wrong. When I saw I was like, "This is amazing."
Yeah.
I was mind blown.
So the big question is, did you take the glasses off at any time to look at the eclipse?
Of course I did.
I did too.
Who doesn't do that?
Only when it was the full eclipse though, not when the sun was shining bright or anything. And I took them off, and I'm like, wow. And there's like a few minutes where you could look at it, and it was like,
yeah, man,
awesome.
it was amazing. Because I don't know what I expected, but I was like, definitely not what I've heard in the news. But but anyway, we were talking about what before I went to the eclipse.
We're talking about the hailstorms that came in because I've had a just busy week with work.
So anyway, they ended up saying like, oh, you shouldn't drive. So I still went into my car, started driving to work, and then another alert came in. I was like, okay, this is actually probably pretty serious. And it's starting to like it was picking back up, like the storm was picking back up. And so I just turned around and went back to my house. I was like, okay, I guess today I'm working from home.
Yeah,
but yeah. We had some really crazy storms here in Texas. Tornadoes. Because did we even have a tornado? It was just a tornado warning, right?
There might have. I heard that there was one. Not. I mean, I didn't see it, but
yeah. So that's what we've been up to. In other news, I turned 30.
Yeah. was a good celebration, though. It was.
It was a good celebration. For those of you that didn't know, so May is my birthday month, which is the best month. I actually think it's the best month out of the year, even if I was.
I think people would get a little bit too much when they say birthday month. You get a day. You get a day.
Well, yeah.
A weekend. We'll give you a weekend.
Hey, that's you.
Okay.
But I had a birthday month, actually quite literally, because I felt like I was celebrating. My bank account is so mad at me right now.
Yeah. Well, you went to Florida.
I went to Florida. Went to celebrate with my people there in Florida, and kind of just
the Keys.
Went to the Keys. If you don't follow me on social media, the pictures are on there. Well, did I even put pictures of the Keys on?
Oh, you better know.
I don't think I did, but yeah, I think I have to now. But Jed and a couple of my great friends put together a great surprise party, which was amazing. Honestly, the best birthday surprise party that I've ever had. So I was really loved very well through it all. But now, I'm kind of starting to explore this new world of being 30, because stuff out here.
Yeah.
So
anyways, there's something that you had brought up to me.
Yeah, but hold on. I'm still accepting donations. So if you have, it's still kind of, it's still, it kind of is not my birthday month anymore.
Yeah, well, you can send the donations towards me and I will forward them to him.
Don't do that. Just send them to me. But you were saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying that we had talked a little bit earlier. It sounded like you had something on your mind that you had wanted to kind of talk about.
I think, we stumbled on this together because we were having a conversation about this. So it wasn't purely just me, as always, kind of thinking about things a little too much. But we were talking about something that I was just thinking about because of a situation that I had recently in one of my friendships and whatever. So, but I was thinking about insecurities, and kind of how we view them, how we work through them, and what they mean, and just how to navigate insecurities in the context of relationships. And so I wanted to know, are there some insecurities that you have? Because I don't think we've ever even talked about this. And sometimes, when you kind of interact with someone a lot, you kind of get to know and see what their insecurities are. But I don't think I can pinpoint some of the ones that you have. So
yeah, my insecurities. Here we go.
Yeah, let's have a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah, currently I don't feel like I've had many insecurities really pop up, or anything that anyone's really said that really caused me to realize, like, hey, I have an insecurity there. But there have definitely been insecurities in the past, things that I've had to work through, that I've talked with you about, just even growing up, being dyslexic, for the first almost all the way through high school, feeling like, kind of stupid, like, oh, I can't grasp things as quickly, I can't read as quick or write as quick, and everything just kind of was harder for me to grasp when it came to, mostly reading and writing. So that was a big insecurity that I had to work through. But
yeah. So
what about you? What are your insecurities?
I don't know, man. I find I kind of struggle to articulate this the best way possible, but maybe you guys can help me kind of get a better language on this. But so I realized, not actually, a couple years ago, I realized that, and I know we talked about this a little bit on the previous, on one of the pods that we did previously. We're talking about leadership, and we're talking about church, like servanthood, and like how to serve people in the church and stuff like that. If you haven't watched that that episode, you can go back and watch it. But we were talking about kind of how people get so engrossed in titles and stuff like that. And that was actually coming from a place of personal experience, because personally I have in the past felt like, I had to do a lot more to present myself as a person of worth and a person that was valuable in any community that I went into. And I felt like that then pushed me to always want to have a title attached to me in order to feel like I matter, to feel like I am valuable in whatever context. So I think underlying that was an insecurity that I felt like I wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So that in every room that I walked into, I felt like I had to add a bunch of complementary elements to my personhood or to myself in order for me to then get to that level of where I feel like people would view me as someone of importance or someone that actually had something to offer.
Yeah.
So,
And I find it interesting. It seems like, any insecurity that someone might have, like whether it's with me and dyslexia, if it's like there's a lack of feeling like you're lacking in something, where it might have been a title, you felt like you're lacking maybe a title or a position, and with anything that someone might, it's like a lack of something. It's like I'm not meeting up to, I guess, a level or a potential, and then you feel insecure about it.
yeah, and it's so weird because sometimes the standard that we set in that is also very unrealistic because we're judging ourselves and kind of harshly considering ourselves in relative to someone else's best.
Yeah.
For example, you sent me this meme on social media about like how Instagram or how social media kind of makes some things look a certain type of way when actually they're not.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of push that analogy a little further in our lives where we have to present in a certain way in order for us to feel accepted, to feel like we are a person of consequence or a person of worth in whatever context. And so we feel like we are less than, but not based off of a realistic standard.
Yeah, because you're kind of looking at the best of the best.
So you're looking at someone's best, and then you're judging yourself based off of of your worst, which is like weird because I remember somewhere in the Bible, basically it says that Jesus, because there is an underlying theme of shame there that sometimes the reason as to why we feel shame is because we feel like we've kind of fallen below the standard that we think that we're supposed to be meeting.
Yeah.
And so we feel shame because, oh my gosh, I should have been doing this. For example, if you feel ashamed about maybe something, a moral failing, or maybe a mistake that you made, and maybe you said something to somebody, it's because you are expecting yourself, you're attaching an expectation to yourself that you should have done better in that sense. And sometimes that's a good thing because, you are evaluating yourself and making sure that you are doing the thing that you ought to be doing. But I think sometimes what that ends up being is, oh my gosh, like, I should be here and I didn't meet that, and so I am a total failure. Yeah. But the Bible says that Jesus basically overcame shame, or there is a way that it words this. I will touch the scripture, but it's basically that Jesus kind of despised shame. Oh yeah, that's exactly the word it says, that Jesus despised shame. So the very thing that sometimes we struggle with that comes as a result of our failing and our inadequacy, Jesus looked it in the eye and he was like, he laughed at it. He despised it. He considered nothing of it, and that's why he was able to do what he did in order to save us. And so I think when you put things into perspective, because the only person we should be comparing ourselves is to Jesus, who is the perfect of everything.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions it kind of raises is like, okay, if we can spot these areas of maybe shame or inadequacy or just feeling like there's a lack in our life, like how do we deal with that, I guess?
No, let me ask you this. How did you deal with the insecurity for dyslexia? Like kind of how did you navigate that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. For me, I mean, the first thing that took place was just when I became very serious about my relationship with God and learning more about like who I am as a person, that my worth isn't in anything else other than being a son of God. And so kind of not caring as much what other people thought about me or how other people viewed me. But then on top of that, I'd actually ended up doing some research on dyslexia. And when I was younger, they always pointed out like the negative effects of dyslexia, right? And so I was always taught like, oh, you'll have a harder time with this and a harder time with that. And only the negative. And then when I actually researched it, there's a lot of positive things. So I learned more about what it actually was and the actual effects of it, not just the negative. And I'm like, okay, now that I can understand that, like I can appreciate it a little bit more. And it's just easier to accept that it's not just like some curse,
Yeah.
And so I think that also helped, but and in some ways it caused me to have to work harder for a lot of things, which as an adult now it caused me to work harder in everything that I do. So that was a blessing. Even the curse was a blessing because it's like
that's good.
Yeah. So
yeah. I think the one thing that you pointed out that kind of strikes me is the idea of you actually going ahead to research and to find out more about, okay, what is this thing that I find is kind of at the brink of defining me, I don't want to be defined by it, but I want to understand it,
Yeah.
And I think that's one step. Like, I think that's the second step. I feel like the first step is acknowledging that it's there, because some people live in denial. Yeah. And they act like, oh, this is not something that I struggle with. But you actually do struggle with it. And every room that you walk into, people are able to see and they are able to acknowledge that you actually struggle with, and maybe sometimes people can't fully understand what it is because it manifests itself in different ways. But at the core, or when the layers are peeled back, that this is something that you're struggling with. And so I think being honest and being transparent about the fact that, okay, I am actually struggling with this. Yeah. So acknowledging it and then understanding it. There's a scripture, Proverbs 4:7, that says, wisdom is the most principal thing. And therefore, with all you're getting, or with all thy getting, get an understanding. Yeah. And there's many things in life that can be fixed by just finding an understanding. A better understanding or a perspective on them that can actually shift our frame of mind so that we get to see how God sees it, or we get to see how it can be used for the betterment of ourselves, or even to help us along the journey of where to get us to where we're going. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, you trying to understand it actually helped you appreciate it more, but it also helped you to figure out, how am I going to navigate it so that it doesn't define me?
Yeah. No, and those were very key, key for me. And I get to the point where, for me, I just became stubborn against it, where it's like, okay, I know that's where I, kind of fall short of lack, and now I'm going to try even harder to like overcome and deal with it. And so, So what you're saying is that you did not settle for it. No.
You did not like say, "Oh, I'm dyslexic."
Well, to be fair though, there was a time in middle school, high school, where it's just like my mindset was just like, okay, I'm just dumb. Like that's just what it is. I'm just dumb.
I mean, there are some moments that I think this.
but it's just like there was a point where it came to like something that I just accepted. Yeah. And obviously God took me out of that and showed me like, hey, you are so much more than that, but also dyslexia is not just this one thing that's all negative. And so it's just like having to learn about it and research it and just kind of overcome some of those different things. But
yeah, so I think that when you understand something and you get a better and in-depth revelation of what it is and how you can navigate it, then it takes away the opportunity for you to be complacent towards it, and for you to be like, to just wallow in self-pity. Like, you're not going to be, oh yeah, I am just a dyslexic. There are people that I know that they will introduce themselves and shortly after will mention the thing they're inadequate in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are just you. So it's the reverse of what I was struggling with, because I felt like I had to introduce the title of myself and then introduce myself. Some people, they will say, oh, my name is Eric and I am dyslexic. Yeah. I'm like, okay, hold on. Yes, you can be dyslexic. It is a reality that something that you're dealing with, but that has nothing to do with who you are as an individual and the value and the things that you're able to do, and yes, it might be something that has an effect on the things that you're able to do, but it does not define the core of who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the biggest thing. It's like some people have embraced that to an extent that they have used it as an impediment or as an obstacle to prevent themselves from actually reaching their fullest potential in life.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because whatever the issue is, you can still, you said it can be a blessing or it can be a curse. You can decide that I am going to look at this in a way that, how can I actually reap the benefits of this specific thing that I'm dealing with in order to come out even better and stronger than I was.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
No, absolutely.
And that's the power of, I feel like that's the power of being in Christ. Mm-hmm. Is that he turns stories around. He turns challenges around. Like, if you're insecure about something, there is an opportunity for that to turn into a blessing. Yeah. And when you give it over to Christ and decide that, God, I am going to see this the way that you see it. I am going to approach this the way that you want me to approach it. And I am going to utilize this for your kingdom.
Yeah.
There is no way that you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about same subject, but another thing that I see all the time online.
Yeah.
Where there are people who are saying things that are offensive, and they kind of do it intentionally. And then I also see people being offended. And they're very vocal, both sides. One will intentionally say things that are going to try and trigger people, and then other people are then responding offended.
Yeah.
And I keep on seeing it, causing offense and being offended. And how do you, obviously I don't think either side is right, for one trying to offend and then the other being offended. But how, I guess, looking at each side, like, what is something that they can do to kind of like maybe look at themselves a little bit deeper, like, hey, why am I being offended? Or, hey, why am I intentionally trying to cause offense towards someone,
I think both sides are struggling with an insecurity.
Yeah.
Because the person that's causing offense, they might be struggling with a different insecurity than the person that's gaining the offense.
Yeah.
So, like, if somebody comes online and basically just starts, maybe saying falsehoods about someone else, or like basically maybe spreads a gossip online about somebody else, like, I feel like many times, this is what I've seen, like a lot of the times, some people will go and comment like a very harsh and very like rude comment on someone. But when you actually peel back, they have issues that they're working through.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even about the person that they're commenting about, like, so it's like, oh, you actually are not, like, this person is not the reason as to why you're dealing with all the heart and the pain in your life. You just kind of, it's coming out, through your comment to this person, but actually there's underlying issues that you are dealing with as an individual. And sometimes it's jealousy. Some people see other people successful online, and so they feel the need to, again, because these people are projecting, they're presenting the best part of their lives, and these people are like, my life sucks, and so they're like going into the comments. So what I'm trying to capture is that there is always like an insecurity on both sides, because if the other person that's offended, because I remember, actually I need to share this story.
Okay.
You remember, like, we received our first hate comment on one of the videos. I don't even think I showed you this comment, but someone posted in one of the videos that we put online, and they were like, this was one of the early ones that we did. And I was, I'm so thankful that God has redeemed me that I can actually laugh this off. But I was actually like, if it was before Christ, I would have been so mad, and so, like, I would have been so, like, wrapped up in that. But I saw the comment, and the comment said, "Oh, I guess every jobless guy is now going to start a podcast." And I was like, rude.
I work.
I'm like, I work. We can barely get time to record this podcast because we are both very busy and we have so much stuff going on. But we want to do this because we thought God, wanted us to do it. But in that moment, what kept me from being offended is because I knew the truth.
Yeah.
I knew that we have jobs. We're not jobless.
Yeah.
And I knew that, we started a podcast not because we don't even make any money out of this podcast. So and so I was like, it didn't bother me at all. But, so in another world, someone would be offended because they would feel attacked because we don't derive our value from this podcast.
Yeah. No.
And that's a good thing. So,
yeah.
So
I remember you telling me about it, and I was like, okay, like I literally don't care.
I was like, who cares? Like,
Dallas Stars, who cares?
Yeah, like who cares? I was like, I just deleted the comment because again, I didn't want to have like the negativity in our chat, but like, it's one of those moments. But you asked the question that what can be done about that, and I think that it's revealing insecurity, and I think that if people could only lean into those revelations, like when you realize that there's something that just offends you or just brings out the insecurity in you, then it is not something that you push away or run away from. It is something that you actually should run towards and try to explore to find the understanding and find the healing and deliverance from the effect of that thing. So that when somebody says that, you're not like going up in arms about it. You've kind of already you've thought about it deeply. You've kind of understood exactly what's going on with it, that you don't take it that much to heart.
That it doesn't bother you.
It doesn't mean it can't offend you. It just means that you would not.
And like you were saying earlier, it's like you might just say, "Hey, like, bro, that's not cool that you said that."
Yeah.
But
yeah.
You can say that without it taking offense inside.
Yeah, totally. And so it's like lean into the insecurity and find deliverance from the offense that might come from the insecurity. Because if you'd not understood that insecurity as much as possible, then you are going to take it deeper than it should. You're going to make it deeper than it should. Yeah. Because if I didn't look at that comment and thought about it a little more deeply, and I was like, is this true? Is this, is there any truth to it? And then eventually I arrived to the point where I was like, oh, this is nonsense. It doesn't even deserve my attention. I discarded it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't even tell you about it until like weeks later, because I was like, no, this doesn't deserve my effort because I understood exactly what was going on. So I wonder if you are listening and maybe there is something, an insecurity or something that you've been battling, like, are you leaning into that and looking out for ways or opportunities for you to actually explore ways to get
and to learn and grow from it. Before we even started this episode, we were talking about what we were going to talk about, and you're like, do you have any verses you want to share about this? I just want to share this verse. It's from Psalms 139 verse 13, and it goes, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depth of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." So I just thought that was a really cool verse.
You read that so well for a person that's dyslexic.
Yeah, well, I had to work on that one.
No, that's a very good verse. It's very good. It's a very good, and that's something that we want to share as a reminder. So you can read it a little more and meditate on it and think about some of the areas in your life that you still need deliverance. Someone said, this was, I think, Michael Jr. quote. He said that conflict, that God will use conflict with people to reveal or to expose areas in your life that you haven't fully healed yet. And it brings out the insecurities,
Yeah.
which shows that there is wounds or there is some festering pains that you just haven't, healed from, and you haven't really leaned into a little more. So we want to encourage you to do that.
Absolutely. And we want to just thank you for tuning in. Again, continue to like, subscribe, share. We appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, we love you guys.
We love you.
And Eric and Jed,
We're out.